right, Dakota, Gizmo, this is their roadmap to success. Now, as I showed you in the other video about resource guarding, I'm kind of letting her do a little bit of the chewing on it while it's in my hand. Follow that video, because we really need, when you have a dog that's a resource guarder, it is a dangerous situation, and they will absolutely bite you if you catch them in that mode. So the more that we feed her and then touch her while we're feeding her by hand, and eventually tossing the treats towards her bowl and then plopping the food in the bowl is really going to pay off for her. Now, the reason that the dogs don't listen very well is because really they only had one rule when I first got here. So I recommend that the guardians incorporate more rules. Look for ways to delay gratification. One of the examples of the rules I suggested was the dog has to sit before I let it in or out of the door. If it doesn't sit right away, I walk away for 1 minute. Then I come back, give it another opportunity to sit once. If I say sit and it doesn't sit within a couple seconds, I walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. So the dog has to wait twice as long before it has another opportunity to comply. When the humans are eating, the dog should not be within 7 feet of the humans eating. We have kind of 2 couches kind of in an L-shaped formation in the living room. I would say if somebody's eating on either one of those couches, that the dogs are not allowed to be on the carpet area in front of the couches. You're going to use the escalating consequences to move the dogs away and to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. Remember, the first thing we do is hiss. Second thing we do is stand up. Third thing we do is march at the dog till it turns sideways. And the fourth thing we do is the leash timeout. If you need a little bit more detailed explanation of those, go to doggoneproblems.com, click on the dog training tips button in the red bar, and then on the right side there's a search bar that you can type in escalating consequences, and I have a number of videos that explain those. I'd also like to see the guardians petting the dogs with a purpose. One of the guardians in particular has a real difficulty not petting Dakota. And because Dakota gets petted so often, I don't think the pet really means that much, and I don't think the dogs have much motivation to listen to the humans. So consistently enforcing the rules, sit. Passive training, like I just did there. She sat, I pet her and say the word sit. When she lays down, because she doesn't know how to do that on command, every time she lays down, pet her and say the word chill. After doing that for a month or 2, she'll start doing that on her own. But we're going to use the word paycheck. So if one of the guardians comes in and sees the other guardian's petting her and she's standing up, they're going to say paycheck. The person goes up, sit. As soon as she sits, they pet her under the chin, say the word sit. Don't say good dog, just the word sit. And then we can explain, hey, she was sitting, and then you came in and she heard you and she got up, and I continued petting her. You can pet your dogs for hours. They just have to do something to earn the petting first. This will make your affection more valuable. It will also motivate the dogs to want to do things to please you. Right now, they are doing things to please themselves. So petting with a purpose and passive training are the great ways to use positive reinforcement to help the dogs understand what we want. Remember, when the dogs are doing something we don't want them to do, we want to look at the situation and what is the dog's objective? What is it trying to accomplish? And then, once we've identified that, how can we help the dog practice the behavior that we want throughout all the activity? So if we're going to answer the door, we want to break down answering the door individual steps. I know, you'll get this one in a sec. So the first step is maybe just hearing the doorbell and being able to have the dog stay behind the line. Next step is walking to the door and actually clicking the deadbolt. Next step is maybe unlocking the handle. Next step is jiggling the handle, then opening the door. By helping the dog practice each individual step by itself and repeating that practice until the dog has that step down autopilot, then we move on to the next step. Once we practice all the steps of the activity, then we can string all those steps together. Now the dog knows how it is expected to act, and we need to practice it. Remember, when you're practicing with your dog, it's not sufficient just to practice it in one area. So if I'm practicing the dog to do the focus exercise, which is also something the guardians need to practice, and I practice here every time, well, then if I sit on the couch, the dog's not going to know how to do it, or it's going to be cumbersome for them to do it. So make sure when you're practicing any activity or exercise or training, you're doing it in a lot of different situations, different locations, different positions, different times of the day, with different distractions going on. But always look at how can I break down the whole activity into small bite-sized pieces, help my dog practice each bite-sized piece individually, then bring them all together. Now, some of the exercises we went through, one of them was a leadership exercise. And again, you can go to doggoneproblems.com and search for leadership exercise on the dog training tips page. A bunch of videos will come up for that. And we primarily just did it with Dakota, but we should probably be doing it with Gizmo as well. So that exercise, I'd like the guardians to get up to 15 minutes. So at first we're going to practice this until the dog surrenders to the exercise and lays down and stops challenging for the treat. by leaving the treat on the floor and then claiming it. Once the dog starts laying down within about 15 seconds, then we're going to start adding time. 5 seconds, then 10 seconds, then 15, then 15 seconds, 30, 45, 1 minute, then go by 1 minute increments up to 15 minutes. I usually do this exercise while between the television and the couch, so I can sit down and watch TV while I'm doing this exercise. Now remember, don't sit down unless the dog's sitting down first. Anytime the dog sits down, we take a step backwards. And remember, the dog's looking at me, then looks away, then looks back at me. That's when I take my step back, and left, right only. Keep your hips pivoted towards the dog at all times. Dakota. So that's the leadership exercise. That is an exercise that works much better if the dog is doing it every day. So I'd like to see both guardians doing it with each dog once a day, each one of you once a day. That way each dog's doing it at least twice or 3 times a day. The more you practice, the faster the dog will get it though. So don't be afraid to practice more. Let me see what else. So that's the leadership exercise. The other exercise we did was the focus exercise. Now remember, when we were doing the focus exercise, we want to do 1 second, 1 second. So Dakota, sit. So we're going to put our hands on our knees. We're going to wait for the dog to look at our face. Focus. 1 second, 1 second. We do that for a couple days. We have about 6 to 12 treats every time we do this. And eventually it's 1 second, 2 seconds. And go towards the dog's eyes. Don't go towards its mouth. The idea is to keep it looking at you in the face the duration of that. Keep doing that and adding 1 second every other time that you practice it until you can get up to the point where you can go focus and take 20 seconds on that second movement before you pop the treat in the dog's mouth. Remember, anytime where you delivering a treat, the dog should hear the command word and only the command word the second the treat touches the lips. Not good sit, not Dakota sit, just sit or chill or whatever the command word is. We're going to use passive training, especially for Dakota. So every time Dakota comes to us, we want to pet her and we're going to say the new command word of here. I'd also like to have the guardians practicing the recall exercise. So it's best to have 3 or more people, sit in kind of a triangle or whatever shape. We're going to do this in the living room. Once the dog comes consistently, then we're going to start increasing the distance between people until the dog will come and find us no matter where we are in the house. Remember, if the dog's still got a treat from you and saying, I'm not leaving to go to the next person that's calling me because you have more treats, we cross our arms, look off to the side, and remain still and motionless and uninteresting. Then the other person would say, here, we only going to say the command word once for whatever we're doing, especially the here exercise. So if I say here, the dog's still jumping up, trying to get the treat for somebody else, I'm going to go, as soon as the dog looks at me, then I'm going to start lowering my hand, and just like she did, the dog's going to come in. Once the dog comes, over the head, as soon as the dog sits down, lower your hand, let it lick it off her hand, and scratch under the chin and say the word here. Let's see, what else do we want to, let me see. Those are the broad strokes. I'd like the guardians also to go to my website and to search for door exercise. And I'd like them to practice claiming the area around the door. This is a great way to demonstrate to the dogs that we are in the leadership position because we are handling security, which is typically a job handled by an authority figure. And then for a lot of these things, because Dakota likes to come and kind of punch us with her nose when she wants some attention. When she's doing that, ask ourselves, how long has it been since she's had some exercise? Maybe that's a good opportunity to go outside, grab the chucker. If it's night, grab the glow-in-the-dark Whistler ball, and then play fetch 12 or 13 times, come back inside. She just needs to burn off a little excess energy. So those things really help, if we pay attention to what our dog is asking for us. All right, so I'm sure I forgot a lot of other things, but the guardians know, just like all my clients can, they can call me at any time, and I'm here to answer any questions and support them. Last thing, remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you see it. Let me try that again. Everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. So pet your dog with a purpose, incorporate rules and boundaries and structure. Your dogs will eventually look at you as an authority figure and then start listening to you better. All right, we'll see you out there.